Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, and today we're here with Andrew Levine, who is the co-founder and CEO of OpenOrchard, a very, very new blockchain company. So, do you want to just start off by telling us a little bit about yourself and what you've been up to in the past?
Sure. I guess I'm most well known for being the former head of communications at Steemit, working with the Steemit team, the team that built Steemit.com and the Steem blockchain. And now there's the Hive fork of the Steem blockchain, which is really cool. We're really proud of that. Community members spearheaded that fork and are responsible for a lot of the new code that went into that fork. But the team of developers that I worked with at Steemit, and most of whom I now work with at OpenOrchard, developed the code base, the Steem blockchain. And so for 3+ years, I worked at Steemit, basically advocating for blockchain adoption, open source software adoption, and specifically the Steem blockchain.
Awesome. Yeah, and we spoke or not recently, but we spoke some time ago when Facebook was just starting to talk about Libra, and we did a quick, I believe it was like just under 10 minutes on my channel, maybe a year ago. It's been some time, but yeah, we talked about
Feels
Libra.
like a decade.
I know, right? It feels so long, and then luckily they haven't launched, so so that's good since we talked about how we were not really fans of what they were doing. So it's definitely been good the way things have gone. So how did you originally get into crypto and the blockchain space?
I originally got into crypto and the blockchain space. I found out about open source software in law school. I had this great teacher, Professor Carroll, who was very active in the open source world as a legal scholar, and I just had no idea about this concept of free software, and it really deeply resonated with me, and I became very fascinated in it. But I'm naturally also very inclined to economic thought. And I guess somewhere along the line, it occurred to me. I mean, the big question in my mind has always been, why isn't everything open source? And I don't think that's very uncommon in the open source world. Is like you fall in love with it, you fall in love with this idea that all the pieces are out there, and it's just up to you to figure out how to put them together. And then I think at some point it occurs to a lot of people that, well, why isn't this everywhere? And it's like, well, because it's all free, and the economics just don't seem to add up. And so I also gave a lot of thought to economics separate from my interest in open source software. As I said, I went to law school, so there wasn't much for me to actually do with open source software, which is I was just thinking about this yesterday, how weird it is that I'm so involved in open source software, and open source software is so important to me. But at the end of the day, I don't actually do much with it. I work with people who do a lot with it. And so I spent a lot of time thinking about economics, thinking about how the economic system would evolve into the future, and how we could change our economic system to create more wealth and create more abundance in the world. And naturally, being interested in open source software and the future of economics, when the Bitcoin white paper came out, it was pretty much right on my radar. And so it blew my mind. And like much in the blockchain space, much of the innovation in the blockchain space, I don't immediately understand why I find it so compelling or what's so interesting about it. It just kind of blows you up, and you start thinking about the potential. And so Bitcoin came out, then Ethereum came out, and so all of these things were deeply interesting to me for those reasons. But at the end of the day, there was no place for me to get involved with them because I wasn't an engineer. And then Steem came out and created this third option to get involved with a blockchain. And despite not being a developer, and I think that that's something that the Hive blockchain has very much picked up the mantle of, and I believe will carry that torch and take it to the next level of offering a blockchain that anybody can begin touching and begin interacting with and begin earning a stake in. And so, yeah, that's my progression in the blockchain space in a few
Awesome.
words.
Awesome. Yeah, I think it's important that you said like the switch from scarcity to abundance mindset. And I think that's very relevant to people in the blockchain space and moving into cryptocurrency. And that's very in line with a lot of people's motivations for why they want to get into this space, because they're so used to that scarcity mindset with like fiat and a lot of the things that they're used to in regular finance. And yeah, blockchain really empowers people. So with that being said, let's get into OpenOrchard. Do you want to just give us a brief introduction to what it's all about?
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of open source, our express mission is to make open source software development economically competitive with private solutions. Maybe not the sexiest mission, but it goes back to that core idea of open source software development. The reason why it is not more dominant, the reason why it isn't more ubiquitous is because it is not profitable. That's the conclusion of my years of analysis, and my years of experience in the blockchain space. And so that's the problem that we're trying to solve, is how do we make it so that the open source software developer out there can launch their free software and generate revenue from it directly, as opposed to indirectly. For example, well, I'm going to throw ads on this piece of software. I'm going to protect the most valuable part of this software. I'm going to privatize that piece of the software and then sell that, and then I'm going to monetize that. And now we don't have any objections to doing those things. People got to make a book. People got to make a buck. And we accept that reality. I think that a lot of the organizations in the space and outside of the space, particularly the organizations that fail the ship, take this approach of demanding that people and consumers and developers change their fundamental natures in order for their product to succeed. Our products must succeed as you are. They must meet your needs. And honestly, I think that that's turning out to be one of the most compelling value propositions. When I talk to developers and when I talk to end users, they don't care so much about the specific products that we're building, which I can go into. What they care about is that we are taking a traditional approach to business, in that we are thinking about who our customer is and how we're going to deliver valuable products and services to them that they're going to be willing to pay for, to pay a reasonable fee for. And then we're saying, okay, how can we leverage our expertise over the various open source software technologies out there, including blockchain technology, to power those really compelling products and services? And this consumer-centric approach, really, it's like people are like, oh, I've never heard a blockchain company say that they're doing that before. It's like, that's so weird that that's turning out to be our value proposition. But that doesn't mean, and I think the issue is that people draw this distinction between indirect monetization and having a standard business model. And what we're saying is, no, you can have a standard business model. There's no way of getting around a standard business model. You have to have products and services. But but you can still do it while directly monetizing the software. And so we're building 3 products, one of which is a blockchain that's being designed from the ground up to monetize open source software. Which means, what does that mean? What does that mean? Well, developers are telling us that they want the ability to create massive numbers of free accounts for their users. They can't do that on any existing blockchain. We're going to give them that feature. They want to be able to guarantee a consistent user experience for themselves and for their users. So that's a top priority. And then there are a number of other features that we're working on that supplement those feature sets. But primarily it's about, we believe that the killer app of blockchains is storing, tracking digital property, digital ownership. And so those are more or less the 3 pillars of our design. There's a lot of technical nuances to that, but essentially it's really about user experience, which includes the ability to create massive numbers of accounts, the ability for those users to actually use the platform freely without really even realizing they're using a blockchain, and then being a really safe way of storing digital property, which means really thorough decentralization. And so one of the things we're really focused on is making sure that the initial token distribution is super fair, super transparent, that we have no advantage. Our business model will not involve us taking a massive percentage of the token supply. But that decentralization is in service of a higher mission, which is making open source software development profitable. And so we won't be monetizing that layer personally, us. Instead, it's being designed to monetize higher layers, application layers. And so then the other product that we're building is a second layer solution, a second piece of software that runs on top of the blockchain. And the result of this strategy comes from our years of experience working at Steemit, working on the Steem blockchain, and realizing that developers and users don't care about the blockchain, don't want to learn about the blockchain, and don't want to learn how to use the blockchain. Developers and users, which developers are really just a type of user, they want features. And the second layer solution that we're building is designed to deliver features to developers so that they can include those features in their apps, build super compelling apps, build applications that have features that incumbent applications like Facebook don't have because they don't have access to a next generation blockchain, and provide those features without the developer or the user having to learn anything about the blockchain at all. They don't even have to know about it if they don't want to. Now, the blockchain will be open and permissionless. So anybody who wants to interface directly with the blockchain can. And we're really focused, right? The second layer solution, it's all about the developer. And so we're super focused on developers, giving developers the resources that they need, whether it's documentation or tools. And that will apply to the base layer as well. We want it to be super easy to use this blockchain. And we have a couple of really compelling innovations that I won't be able to talk about today that will really prove that belief, that this is a true, authentic belief of ours that we're going to back up with actions. And then that second layer, that's where we're going to generate revenue for ourselves. So for example, one feature we might offer is you're developing an application in which you sell in-game items, right? You want to sell badges, you want to sell privileges, whatever. We're going to give you a module that enables you to tokenize those features, charge your users for them, collect revenue from them, and then we take a percentage of that revenue, which is just free, it's free money for you. You're getting money you wouldn't have gotten before. And in exchange for giving you this valuable feature that generates revenue for you, we generate revenue. Now, if you want to build a separate toolkit for the blockchain and tokenize your app directly, you can do that. But what we're betting is that our experience and our knowledge puts us in a position to develop those features better, more safely, cheaper for the developer, so that you can focus on doing what you want to do, building an amazing application, delivering an amazing experience to your users. And we're here to help. And all these products just are tools that will hopefully enable us to help as many open source and closed source developers as possible, because these tools will be equally accessible to private solutions, right? That's the beauty of open. You can take open source software and make it private, but you can't take private software and make it public. Well, not really. I can't. Only the people who own the private software can do that.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And it's good to hear you mention that there's going to be no Ninja Mind stake, and that you guys are going to make it a priority to have free accounts, because that was definitely a pain point for a lot of people. And I assume you're probably also going to try to speed up the account creation process with that at the same time, or what is that going to look like?
Developers will be able to create accounts instantly. The account approval process will basically go away.
Okay.
So our accounts will likely, so we're still in the architecting phase. We're still very, very early. So I just want to set expectations appropriately. No hard decisions have really been made, though we're very close to finalizing a lot of the features. And we have, I'd say we have 90% clarity on all the high level features that we want. And so the beauty of our two-layer approach, this specific feature really highlights the benefit of our two-layer approach. The way we will likely implement accounts on our blockchain is that we're going to move back to a system much more like Bitcoin and Ethereum, where where the accounts are unique identifiers. And I apologize for like non-technical users, but it's actually not a difficult challenge to enable developers to create lots of blockchain accounts for free. That's a problem that's been solved by blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum. The problem came when you tried to build a blockchain like Steem that's for hosting accounts that have a lot of features embedded in them on a blockchain that has a lot of content stored on it. And also the thing with Steem was that we wanted to have human readable account names. And that also leads to cost and difficulty in terms of maintaining the namespace. So it's like, it sounds crazy, but just the fact that you have human readable account names guarantees friction in the account creation process, because you now have a limited namespace that must be regulated. And so our approach will be unique identifiers, so you don't have that namespace challenge. And then in the second layer, that's where our namespace management will reside, and will basically be mimicking probably something like Discord's system, where it's like people can have the same username, it's like Andrarchy number 7724, whatever. And then the user, and then we map the username to the blockchain account. So, and we think that that's a very good solution to this problem. It actually solves a number of solutions. And, I don't want it to sound like I'm saying Hive is bad. Hive is aimed at solving a specific set of problems, specifically around being a blockchain designed to store content. It's this social blockchain. Everything is on the blockchain, and that has, like every design decision, that has positives and negatives. What we're building will have positives and negatives. It's not about better or worse. It's about different. We want apps. We want to build a stack that apps like Twitter can come to and say, I want to do a pilot of 20,000 users. And I want them to have the same account names they have. I just want to give them blockchain accounts. I just want them to be able to take advantage of the features that your unique stack has, and see if it creates more engagement, more customer satisfaction, whether it gives us an additional revenue tool, yada, yada, yada. That's how we're designing our stack. And so our stack will be able to do that, where it's just like 20,000 accounts. Okay, give their usernames. It goes into our second layer solution. And then that same solution maps all of those accounts to the relevant blockchain accounts. And now those users have blockchain accounts. And the beauty of that separation is that it actually increases anonymity too. And it increases user choice too, because now as a user, I can have many accounts I can have many blockchain accounts mapped to a single account. I can sever that mapping. I can remap those blockchain accounts to new usernames, or I can delete my usernames, and I can eliminate all of that information. And so we get a lot of bonuses through this model. And so only one advantage is that we can really create a massive number of accounts at very low cost as is. We also have a few innovations in line that will decrease the size, the cost of running the blockchain, the infrastructure cost, which is the second piece of that puzzle of getting the cost of doing all this stuff on the blockchain real low. But we think that this will be by far the most scalable stack in terms of creating accounts that can transact freely. And it's definitely a multivariate solution. It's not one thing at all. It's actually a number of things, more than two solutions.
Awesome.
Sorry,
awesome.
I rambled.
No problem. I was gonna say, what does OpenOrchard set out to solve? I feel like you've covered quite a bit, but if you want to just quickly reiterate on that, what do you guys specifically set out to solve in the blockchain crypto space?
Thank you for asking the question, because there is, I don't feel I've answered it to my own satisfaction.
Okay. Yeah, fair enough.
I think, which I blame you for. I'm just kidding. I have given that answer of making open source software profitable. And another way I like to put that is directly monetizing open source software. Another way people put that is tokenizing software. But none of that is the answer, I don't think. I think the real answer is that people don't trust the applications that they use. You asked what problem are we trying to solve in the blockchain and crypto space? Yes, there are a number of problems in the crypto and blockchain space that we believe we will solve. Scalability problems, user onboarding problems, user experience problems. But the real answer is that we are not trying to solve problems in the blockchain and crypto space. We are trying to solve problems in the human space. And the problem we're trying to solve in the human space is that nobody trusts the information that is being presented to them. Nobody trusts the apps that they're using, that are available for them to use. And so the problem we're really trying to solve is giving you apps that you can trust, leveraging blockchain and cryptocurrency technology, among other open source technologies, to enable you to trust the information you're getting. We talk about trustlessness in the blockchain space, but I think that just confuses people. The short version is that these technologies give us very powerful tools for building applications that people feel are trustworthy. You just feel like you're getting trustworthy information. And so that's the problem we're trying to solve. We want to create a future where my mom, where my dad, my grandpa, everybody, when they open their apps, they feel like they're being presented with trustworthy information, not because they're being tricked into thinking it's trustworthy, but because it actually is, because the information that they're seeing is inherently trustworthy. And that's where trustless technologies can be very powerful, is that they can enable the production of inherently trustworthy applications. And so that's the problem we're trying to solve.
Yeah, no, I think that makes a lot of sense. People have become so distrustful of the tech and the applications they use just because of, well, the many egregious ways that they've broken trust. So, obviously that mentality carries over to blockchain. But a lot of people in the blockchain space are trying to solve those problems and mend those ties and actually create trustworthy or trustless applications. So I think that's really important that you guys are really tackling that mission.
Yeah. Well, and to answer your other question of in the blockchain space, Ethereum and EOS, a lot of people, they can be used to create apps like the ones that I'm describing. And a lot of people are exploring those things. But the biggest problem with all of those approaches is that, oh, my cats are fighting if you're hearing that hissing noise. So the biggest problem with those approaches, though, is that they all focus on the crypto and the blockchain user, which is such a different type of user. And I think that part of the reason that they do this is because they don't need to scale in that case. They're not trying to meet the needs of the many more ordinary people. But it's this weird, paradoxical, self-sabotaging route. On these protocols, people have thoroughly explored all the various ways of building amazing applications that people can trust. But the protocols themselves do not have the features necessary in order to meet the needs of ordinary people. And so nobody winds up using them. And what good is trustworthy apps if nobody's actually using them? And so by taking the knowledge, EOS and Ethereum, those ecosystems have produced amazing technologies, will continue to produce amazing technologies. There are issues with centralization, especially on EOS. There are various issues with these platforms, but they've provided such a wealth of knowledge. The problem is that they have structural challenges. And so what we're going to be doing is taking all of the knowledge that's out there, all of the technologies that have been developed, incorporating them into a blockchain. Not many people have, not many groups have the skills necessary to build a blockchain that incorporates the most advanced technologies from every ecosystem. We do. If you look at our roster, we have the talent to do that. And so taking all of those innovations, putting them into a new next generation blockchain, and then focusing on user experience, scaling the user experience, that's what we will be contributing to the blockchain and the cryptocurrency space, taking all of the innovations and actually delivering them into the hands of ordinary users.
Sorry, I was muted there. Yeah, no,
No.
I absolutely agree. And one thing that I was curious about was, how did you guys come up with the name OpenOrchard?
It's a great question. It all comes back to our mission of being obsessed with open source software. When we were trying to think of the name, we wanted to make sure that it communicated kind of who we are. We have a product called OpenSeed, which is basically our distributed networking product. And for the technical users out there, the idea is that a great way to scale a blockchain is basically to pair it with a distributed network. And so we're going to have the blockchain at the base layer. And then above that, that second layer solution that I was talking about, that's a distributed network. And so that's optimized for basically speed, making sure that people can interface with a database fast. That database is going to hold all the information that you want urgently, and then it's going to interface with the blockchain for that information that you want that added layer of security for. So, and OpenSeed was really, Ben Flanagan named that. He's, one of our founding team members. And so we were thinking, okay, so there's OpenSeed. What's the company name? We're all about open source. And then it came down to Googling ideas and Googling name idea. And then every time there was a company that already existed, we crossed that off the list. And so It was really more of a process of elimination. But then we felt that Orchard encapsulated the openness of the ecosystem that we're trying to create. We're trying to create, we're not trying to create one application or necessarily even one blockchain. So our second layer solution is designed, it already interfaces with the Hive blockchain, and it already interfaces with IPFS. So we leverage IPFS to store media for use in applications. And then we're going to add the Koinos blockchain, our blockchain, to that stack as well. And so it's really blockchain or even database agnostic. And so we wanted to communicate this feeling of total openness. If you are an open source software developer, we feel that there's better be something of interest to you within our stack, whether it's some feature set within the second layer or a feature set within the base layer itself.
Yeah, no, that makes a lot of sense. So for people who are starting to follow along with the project, what can or when can they expect to see something, and what are some of the big things that you've got in the works right now?
So if you want to follow along with the project, check us out on peaked.com at OpenOrchard. So that's a Hive interface, and that's spelled peakd.com/@OpenOrchard. We post updates there. We've got a Discord server. We've got our website, openorchard.io. We'll be posting updates in all of those locations. As far as short-term deliverables, we've already done quite a bit of work on the second layer and an application that shows off just what you can accomplish with an open and encrypted database. Like I said before, a lot of what people love about Steem and Hive does not require a blockchain. it requires an open and encrypted database. And so we're building that that second layer to demonstrate that first, how basically storing messages, usernames, passwords, messages, and then links to blockchain accounts can provide a shared database of users and messages for use in applications, and that can be very powerful. And so one of the ways we decided to show that off was by building a mobile application in tandem called OpenLink using Flutter. And to show off the capabilities. And so that will be an open source social networking and encrypted messaging application. And so you'll be able to list your skills and interests, find people, and send encrypted messages and encrypted group chats. So it's kind of like a mix of Telegram and LinkedIn. But that's just an MVP for that product. It's going to take us a bit longer so that should be coming in the next 1 to 3 months. And then the blockchain is obviously, it's going to take a lot longer. The blockchain that we're building, we really think that we can make a very meaningful contribution to the blockchain space with this blockchain. And so we really want to take our time with it, do it right. We care much more about the blockchain space as a whole. Well, and like I said, there's an irony to focusing on the second layer and monetizing at the second layer, which is that the better we do the base layer, the more money we can make in the second layer. And so it really behooves us to get that right. And so I can't give a timeline on that, except to say that taking longer than a year with that would be really difficult to sustain a business on, because we're not making any money now and nobody's taking a salary. More or less, we're very capital efficient right now, which means nobody's really getting any money. And so, but we feel that that's good, that'll motivate us to ship it as fast as we can while delivering something that's as powerful as we can. And the beauty of taking the approach that we are, of basically releasing the second layer first and an application that leverages the second layer first, is that people can begin leveraging our stack, understanding our products, understanding how our products make them feel. And then when the blockchain launches, and this really highlights the value proposition of our approach, is that applications that interface with our second layer, the moment our blockchain launches, those applications will immediately gain access to that blockchain because we will interface it with the second layer ourselves. And so, but the other point I want to make is that while our app will leverage our second layer solution, currently called OpenSeed, any app will be able to leverage those same functionalities, the chat. So for example, if I'm chatting in OpenLink with you, and we want to head over to another game or application that leverages OpenSeed's chat module, we can take our chat with us into that game and continue it. And so those capabilities will go live in the next 1 to 3 months and have no dependency on the blockchain itself. They'll just be taken to the next level when we can link it up to a blockchain. But we're not demanding that you wait for that event. We think that we can deliver a ton of value in the short term to both developers who are looking for an encrypted chat to integrate into their app. We've gotten a ton of requests for this feature, so we know that the demand is there. Discord, Telegram, they're not meeting the needs of developers, specifically Hive application developers. And so we think we can deliver something really compelling there in the next 1 to 3 months, and then really take it to the next level when we do ship the blockchain.
Awesome, awesome. And in terms of like your long-term vision, if everything were to go perfectly, let's say, what would you hope for it to look like in like a year or in like 5 years' time?
A vibrant ecosystem of trustworthy applications. Um, we need to grow fast. We do have a growth-based strategy, but the beauty of the position that we're in is that we don't need to grow as fast as Web 2.0 applications had to grow. Facebook and Twitter had to grow beyond the scale of existing advertising networks in order to achieve what they needed in order to generate revenue. Because our business model is not based on advertising, um, we do not need to grow that fast. We do need to grow. I've made it clear to the team that the way that I'm modeling this, the way that I'm modeling our business does depend on growing faster than any other blockchain out there. It needs to be, I believe it needs to be exponential, but it doesn't need to be the level of exponential growth that we saw in the previous phase of the internet, right? Like Facebook and Twitter, they needed these hockey sticks of growth just because, like, okay, we're advertising networks. We don't need that, but we do need massive growth. If we have more users than any other blockchain and feature parity, and in fact, superior features, then we think we can corner a sufficient part of the market to generate very healthy revenue. But the beauty, but again, I'm not talking billions of users. In my opinion, and I've had difficulty finding hard data on this, most blockchains have very few daily active users. It's a wide range, but it's very few. I mean, there are not hundreds of thousands of users of ordinary people using an Ethereum app. There are not hundreds of thousands of ordinary users who use EOS apps. And so if we can, and so we just need to grow faster than them. And then our user base becomes incredibly valuable. And really, and so our products will be based on the value proposition of we have the users and we have the features. And so, geez, what was your question? I'm sorry. You're muted.
I always forget that.
Me too.
Yeah, it was where you see the company going in the next year
Mm.
and then in the next 5 years.
Right. So yeah, so I imagine us having a lot more users, but the way to get those users is to have the apps. So but in the same way that we don't need as many users, we don't need as many apps. So in I think that in 1 to 2 years, there will be multiple apps built on our stack. I think in 5 years, if we do what I think we can do, I see hundreds of apps built on our stack. But one of the interesting realizations that I've had is that people don't use that many apps. People don't talk to that many people during the day, and people don't use that many apps during the day. So what I really hope to see is a relatively small number of amazing applications that people find tremendously valuable. At the end of the day, We just need to be able to pay our salaries, pay the salaries of new team members to keep building amazing open source software and keep delivering applications that people can trust. And if it winds up being 1 million people using those apps and getting to experience what a trustworthy app actually feels like, then I can live with that. Like, our business model is intended to be profitable regardless of whether we achieve massive scale. We want to achieve massive scale so that we can deliver this technology and its capabilities into as many people's hands as possible. And that gets back to that idea of abundance that you had. Ultimately, I guess, and here's a better answer to your question, in 5 years, I want to see a bunch of great apps that people trust, that are channeling valuable tokens to those users that they would not have otherwise had. And so they're getting money that they otherwise would not have had by using applications that are delivering higher quality information to them. And if we can do that, I would, if it's 100,000 users, if it's 1 million users, I'd be happy with that. We want it to be a bigger number so that more people can participate in that abundance and participate, and receiving higher quality information puts you at such an advantage in any game, including the game of life. And of course, we want as many people as possible to get there, to get that higher quality information, to be able to operate in the world more efficiently, more productively.
Awesome. Yeah. No, I think that makes a lot of sense. And hopefully in a year, in 5 years, we do see a bunch of people on OpenOrchard and taking full advantage. So where can people go to follow along with this project, and where can they go and check it out?
Yeah, so our main blog is at peaked.com, peakd.com/@OpenOrchard. OpenOrchard.io, that's our website. We're on all the social medias, and our Discord server, which you can find by looking at any of our blog posts or anything like that. I say go to OpenOrchard.io, put your name on our email list, and then we'll be sending out newsletters. We're very much in the building phase. I hope to begin releasing more information about what we're building in the coming weeks. Right now, we're pretty focused on the product itself. But yeah, in the coming weeks, we should be sending out more information through a newsletter, presumably. We haven't done that work yet. But yeah, or on Twitter. God, that's a terrible answer.
No, I mean, no, that makes sense. And everyone, make sure to go and check them out. Go to the website, find all their other social links, and follow them everywhere. That is everything that I had. Is there anything else that you want to make sure to touch on before we end this off?
No, I think you covered all the bases. It was a great interview. Thank you.
Awesome. And thank you so much for coming on. Again, everyone, make sure to check out OpenOrchard. This was Andrew Levine, who, again, is the co-founder and CEO of OpenOrchard. So, make sure to follow along and check it out. And thanks again for coming on and doing this.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for sticking around. Since you did, please give this video a like. And if you'd like to see more, make sure to subscribe. You can also support me by donating to the addresses below. If you're using an Ethereum wallet, you can send to scottcbusiness.eth. If you're using another wallet like Coinami, Trust Wallet, Atomic Wallet, you can send to scottcbusiness.crypto. On both wallets, I accept Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, Bitcoin Cash, and Ripple. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to comment, like, and subscribe. I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, signing off. Cheers.